I think part of my job also is to protect institutions from themselves. And although I say go bold, that can mean many things, as I said. And so sometimes my job is to step in front of them before they step in it.
Hey, Mallory, what is the biggest secret you've ever had to keep?
Oh, Volt. I'm not going to say it on air, but my NDA ended in March, and if you're really that curious, come find me at the next AMA conference.
You'll be sitting next to me drinking Negronis, just for the record.
On a rooftop somewhere, preferably. I've got a question for you. What's like the best ancillary perk of any job that you've ever had?
You know, whatever it certainly is not parking and football tickets, which is a perfect lead-in to our special guest today. We are welcoming Teresa Valerio Parrot. And Mallory, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about Teresa?
Oh my gosh. I mean, if someone listening right now does not know Dr. Teresa Parrot, I mean, have you been living under a rock? She is the principal of TVP Communications and a frequent keynote speaker. You've probably seen her or met her at a number of conferences. CASE has awarded her the Crystal Apple Award for teaching excellence, which is such an honor. And she and her team were recognized by PR Daily in 2024 for Media Strategy of the Year. I mean, if you work in this industry, you know exactly the value Teresa brings to it. And in fact, I'll say just anecdotally, I had the pleasure of really getting to know Teresa. Oh gosh, it was maybe 10 plus years ago now when I got to co-create the call to action blog for Inside Higher Education with her while I was actually at M. Stoner Voltaire. And so that was kind of my first introduction to Teresa. And I remember being like, oh, I want to be her one day when I grow up. She gives very generously to this industry. That's something I really admire about her. And another organization that gives generously to this industry is On Deck Marketing. And I know that you and I are so grateful, as always, for their sponsorship of the Higher Ed Icon series. So go to ondeckmarketingmktg.com if you want to learn more about this great organization. There's some really great blog posts that are up on the site right now, interviewing some CMOs at a variety of different types of institutions and their perspectives on the importance of measuring and retaining brand awareness when we work and operate in these performance-obsessed institutions.
Fantastic. Well, Mallory, let's get into it.
Let's go. Teresa's waiting.
Teresa, thank you for joining us today. Much appreciated.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely.
I am with two icons here, so this is fantastic. It's true. It's true.
Oh my gosh.
Icons on icons. I love it.
Yes, yes.
All right. So I understand that you got your first job as the special assistant to the president of the University of Colorado system. And the way you got that job is that you told him that you would make it your own and you would make him proud.
Yes.
And then you spent the better part of a decade in that system, and you did donor relations during a $1 billion campaign.
When $1 billion was a big deal. Do y'all remember that?
It still is.
I remember when campaigns were less than $1 billion. That's
right?
how old I am.
Like,
right?
I remember
Seriously?
we announced $1 billion and everybody gasped. And now it's the other way around. If you announce less than $1 billion, everybody gasps. So that was
exactly.
a while ago.
And you lived through that campaign.
I
You
did.
also had an officer level position during a run of controversy that made national headlines.
Yes.
So I want to know, what did that first job or series of jobs teach you about how institutions actually work?
So my origin story is I was a policy wonk. And I think it's really important for those of us who are giving counsel to institutions to understand how they fundamentally work. I have myself worked with others, and they'll say, well, you should just, and they may not know about shared governance, or they may not know about the Donors' Bill of Rights, or they may not know about how academic policy and institutional policy work together, or they don't. And I think those are critically important important elements for those of us who are trying to help those who are working through structural and leadership issues, but also trying to work through fundamentally getting some people sometimes to make tough decisions because they're worried about these other pieces behind the scenes. And
Yeah.
that's where I think we can provide great value.
And was this trial by fire for you? Because it was your first
Yes.
job out of college, right? So how
It
did
was
you
my
learn about
first job out of
shared
college.
governance?
The president I worked for was fantastic. And I think the reason that part about making it my own and making him proud worked is because he was a former faculty member. And what he missed and he wanted was someone to mentor and someone to help shape their career so that they might have a lifelong career in higher education. So he took this position that could have gone many ways and at many different levels of support to him, and he chose to invest it in me. And I think what he really saw was both potential, but he also saw an opportunity to return to his faculty roots and what he had enjoyed and no longer got to experience as a president.
Were you
Wow.
realizing when all these things happened, like Volt called out a few of them, like
Yes.
one of the earliest billion-dollar campaigns,
Right.
a controversy that makes national
Mhm.
headlines. Like, were you aware enough in those early years to like be like, "Ooh, I am getting my foundational building blocks here," and like have some gratitude for all of that challenge, or were you just like,
So
"Shit, this is hard."
I honestly think I didn't realize, Mallory, that wasn't normal. My second job at CU, I was chief of staff to the vice president for academic affairs and research. And one of the tasks that vice president gave me, and he really gave me big projects that, looking back, never should have been given to a 24-year-old. I staffed the rewrite of the faculty handbook. Like, who's going to trust a 24-year-old with that? And part of the reason that it went as well as it did is the vice president or the assistant vice president I was partnered with, she was a former faculty member and she loved the faculty. And I had no idea that it should have contention. So the two of us went in thinking this should be a loving experience of how you codify our partnership and our working relationship. And we got everything done that we needed to get done. Everything we needed to make sure was in there, and we were done well ahead of time because I just didn't even know that it should be a fight.
Hmm.
I had projects like that throughout my 10 years where I just thought we're all here for the institution and the students, and so why shouldn't we work together? I think
Yeah.
and this is what our work is. I think it's once I left and I started visiting other campuses that I suddenly went, wait a minute. This isn't how all of higher education works. I've had some great mentors and leaders. They've given me assignments that, normally they would create a committee and work on it for 2 years and the product may work or may be mediocre. I don't think I understood. I think in some ways how much me being naive, but also me being so energetic and in love with higher education allowed them to put trust in me that I don't know really was the smartest thing that they could have done, but it worked.
So I've got to ask, Teresa, what nurtured that love of higher education in you? How did
Yes.
you decide that this was where you were going to start your career?
Well, career-wise, it was very simple. I graduated one Saturday, and my husband and I got married the next Saturday, and he still had a semester to go, and we had tuition to pay. So, in the ad for this position, there were two things that caught my mind. It was the ad included that the position had parking and football tickets. So I only applied for this job because
Oh
but
my
I was
God,
like,
I love this.
Kevin, not only do I get a salary, by the way, they'd paid me nothing, but we get parking, which is expensive, and we get football tickets. So that was how I chose my job. That is all true. This is all true. But
That's
the
hysterical.
reason that I fell in love with higher education, I did not want to go to CU Boulder at all. I grew up my later part of my childhood in Colorado, and I wanted to go anywhere else. I saw my friends going out of state, and I saw them looking at these great opportunities. And for finances, because my family just didn't know better, I went 45 minutes away from home. And so when I went, and I had some amazing opportunities, and I was part of this great leadership cohort for 4 years, and I had great scholarships, but I did not want to be there. And my first week, I remember walking across the campus, and I stepped foot in like the main central part of campus, and it's like I just had this jolt of energy go through me, and I thought, I need to grow up in this moment because I have this amazing opportunity ahead of me that my relatives have not had, that my family hasn't been able to experience in this way. And who am I to come into this and say, but I should have been doing something better, different, somewhere else, whatever it is. This is my opportunity to make the most of it. And it was that kind of like snap out of it mentality that I realized I had the opportunity to fall in love.
Yeah.
You are in direct proximity to the leadership of the institution, which is, like not everybody in their career
Yes.
gets that level of access, let alone in their early 20s. And I have to
Yes.
you got to just observe all sorts of things. What surprised you most at that time about how decisions actually get made, like at the highest level versus maybe how you assumed they got made? And have you carried any of that into your, very rich career in this industry?
Well, thank you. Here's what I will say. I think in my leadership program, we mostly talked about how CEOs operate. And obviously, many CEOs have a board as well. But a CEO makes a decision and the decision happens. And I think what I was very surprised by is that at an institution, you have shared governance. So where's the faculty senate? You have a board that, in my case, was elected by congressional district, by the population. And you have so many politics going on. My first president, besides just being such a great mentor, he was a former mayor and a former state legislator. And so some of what he talked to me about is in those careers, they were far less political than in higher education was. And seeing what that looked like from the beginning and being able to see, because I was there, in staff meetings, and I was there when he was with the board, and because I staffed him in his board work, and I got to see firsthand that he was human as well. So he was working these long days. He had all of these pressures, and the University of Colorado system was kind of a first institution to have their in-state support draw down. And so I got to see ahead of other institutions what that was going to look like for the campuses. I got to see what the decision-making looked like. He tried to and failed to implement one of the first integrated marketing plans across higher education. It was a spectacular fail. And I got to see, okay, what worked and what didn't work. And that's critically important to then know when you're trying to help other people bring their community together around something that should really bond them. And I think it was understanding, and I've brought this into my work now with presidents and boards, how hard these jobs are, and also that we have human beings there that also have lives.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's the work that you do to me is so fascinating, partly because of how much the role of the president has changed for
Yes.
universities over time. I mean, you've worked with leadership across multiple institutions, with multiple firms, and multiple decades. And I think it's fair to say that the job of a university president is a job that most people just don't want anymore,
Correct. That is
right?
correct.
No one wants to do it. So my question for you is, watching them up close as you did, realizing that they're human, what did it teach you about leadership and what was required under that sort of pressure that most of us don't see?
I'm going to talk about today and then I'll go backwards.
Okay.
So I have the great honor of being on the faculty of a number of leadership pipeline programs. So these are the programs that if you think you want to be a president, you'll go through these, either for 6 months, for a year, whatever it might be. And it's always very curious to me who comes into these programs. I always ask who thinks they're going to be a president within a year, who thinks within I usually say 3 or less years or 3 or more years, and then who doesn't want to be a president. And then I ask them that at the end of the program as well. And what I have found is that that first group that is convinced they are going to be a president within the next 3 years, usually at the end of the year, there's still that same group that is convinced they're going to be a president within the next 3 years. But there's this porosity between the second and third groups, those who think that they will be a president in 3 or more years, and those that don't want to be presidents. And I think as I've worked through this, and if I think back to the leaders that I've been able to serve with, There was a great study that came out 2 years ago by Kevin McClure and Jorge Bermicki. And what they found were, what are the skill sets today to be successful as a president? And I've been able to see, both as a direct employee and also as a consultant, how all of those different traits work and play together. And they're a great way for me to see how far a president can go, or what work they need to go to stay. There are things like timely decision making. Some of these sound so obvious, right? But it's critically important that you can't just drag everything out, because our world doesn't allow that. It's not just hiring yes people or hiring people like you, but hiring those that complement, supplement, and sometimes challenge you so that you get the best product. It's making sure that you are communicating and making sure that you are going beyond the bounds of your own campus, and that you're prioritizing internal communications. All of these sound so obvious to us, but when I see those cohorts of rising presidents and when I work with presidents, I think so many of them still don't understand that this isn't about just hosting dinners and being the person who wears all of the regalia and gems and everything at commencement. It's tough work, and you need to be thinking about your leadership framework and also your ability to take feedback, constructive feedback and criticism, and be able to move forward in a stronger way.
Yeah. I'm curious. You've worked with a number of people who are developing as leaders. What
Yes.
would you say is the skill in shortest supply given the demands of the job?
Ooh. I'm guilty of this one as well, so I'm going to put me here too. I think it's the ability to delegate. I
Ah,
tell my presidents the strongest sign of leadership is building a team that you trust to delegate to. I have a team that I trust to delegate to, but I get in my own head about, they already have so much to do. Am I going to be adding more to what they're doing? Maybe if I just take a few minutes and do it. And that is absolutely the wrong way to go about it. Because showing that you can trust them to take on what could be a responsibility that you would give to yourself helps them to see their own potential and growth, and to want to have more of those opportunities in the future.
yeah, but it's hard. I
It's
mean, because,
hard. Yes. But I see
trust
this
is
with
hard.
presidents. Yeah, I see this with
Yeah.
presidents, including the communication has to come from me. Guess what? It doesn't.
Mm.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you something, Teresa. I hope
Mm-hmm.
you'll be honest with us.
Mm-hmm.
You're known for honesty juxtaposed with optimism.
Yes.
You've built a whole practice on being honest, on telling presidents the true thing. Gosh, you just talked about trust, right? Like, but honesty has a failure mode. And somewhere in your career, you gave a client an honest call, but it wasn't right. It was the wrong call.
Yes.
I wish we could all get everything right 100% of the time, but we can't. So maybe it was a moment where you read it this way, but it actually broke over here, or, just tell us about the one you got wrong.
Um, I think one that I got wrong was I believed that a team that was going to be announcing a major change would not leak. And I trusted, because I worked with them. They said they had, all of them said they hadn't told anybody else. All of them said that they were keeping this. And because I'm an optimist and because I believe in people, I trusted that. And so you only need one of those where it breaks and you're not yet ready because you think you still have weeks or months to get all of your ducks in a row. And what I've learned since then is I'm going to have shadow systems where I'm always at least putting together the framework. So if it leaks, if not a whole plan, just in case it leaks, so that if anybody leaks or sometimes even has the best of intentions and thinks that they're helping and they end up leaking,
Yeah.
we're ready to go much more quickly. And that was me doubting, or me trusting people and doubting my own gut that this was a big enough situation that I shouldn't just think of hope as a strategy and trust as a given.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What did you do when it leaked?
I think I lost the next 2 weeks of my life because you
Ugh.
end up scrambling and you end up doing everything you can to put all of the pieces back in order
Yeah.
and try to figure out what that looks like.
Yeah.
And that was a really tough lesson, that if we really thought the potential could have been 10 times better for that institution, and it ends up being a deficit situation in trust and in reputation and an image,
Yeah.
yeah, I have to take part of that responsibility.
Hmm.
Well,
But, to your point, like you learned from it and you've been
Yes.
like very clearly like outlined what you've done differently as a result. And like, hope to God you never need those contingency plans that you're
Yes.
building, but it's like a good crisis plan. Like you've got it in place before the crisis happens. So,
Yes.
so that's, yeah,
Trust your gut,
interesting.
people. Yeah, trust your gut, and
Interesting.
also assume the worst and plan for the worst, and then execute it so it's the best. But I
mm,
also have another one. This was just yesterday. I am blunt. So I have a sign back here
No.
that's from Ashley that says Teresa Valerio Parrot, Wrecking Ball. And just yesterday, Aaron and I were on a call with the senior leadership team, and I was like, okay, here you go. Blah, 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 blah. It's pure honesty. And when we know that the team isn't always going to react positively to that kind of feedback, we also include Aaron. And that's what we each, and we do this quite often for situations that we know need a lot of TLC. And that's because we watch a lot of nonverbals. And she's watching nonverbals when I blurt, and then I'm watching nonverbals. She's much more of a consensus builder, and I'm a let's break it down and break it down and build it up. And there was a point halfway through my soliloquy that she just slacked me and said, "They've got it." And for the rest of the call, they only addressed her. And it was feedback to both of us, but they were like, "And Aaron, just so that you know, on page da, 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 da." And I was just like, yeah. But it needed to be said. And we both have such different personalities and ways to get there. And as time gets short, and as people sometimes aren't seeing some of the vulnerabilities or some of the potential reputation traps, sometimes you have to shake them out of that. And I'm okay to be the wrecking ball if it means in the end, the institution, the students, the faculty, the community benefit from what they're deciding and they're moving forward with.
mm.
Well, I just want to point out, Erin did not show up to this conversation today, but no. If I'm ever on a call with you and she is there, I
Yeah,
now
you
know
know.
why.
You know why. Everybody always assumes she's going to be bad cop and I'm going to be good cop. And the first time I just come in like a wrecking ball, you can just see people's eyes widen because they're like, wait, the optimist is the wrecking ball? Yes, I am.
Miley Cyrus over here.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. So I have to ask you about that just a little bit more. I mean, you basically are privy to a lot of stuff that is
Yes.
never, ever going to hear the light or see the light of day. You
Correct.
deal, and it's not, the happy stuff is easy, right? It's happy stuff that
Yes.
you need to keep under your hat, not a problem. Financial instability, burnout, crisis communications. These are really, really weighty topics,
Mm-hmm.
and you've been dealing with them for decades.
Yeah.
And so I'm just curious, number one, how do you manage to keep all of those weighty secrets? And number two, what does that cost you personally to do that? Because when you're sharing those secrets with people, you're in many ways helping to carry that burden.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think if you do it best, you are helping to carry that burden so that the burden isn't theirs alone.
Yeah.
And you're also giving them the tools to continue to lighten that burden by taking away stress and fear, by making sure they know what could happen and they're ready for it so that when they face it, it's not something that is going to make them freeze, but is going to make them really shine in their leadership position. But to your point, I think there's a difference about being on a campus and facing it day in and day out. I've done that. And that was a time in my life where I was truly working 18-hour days. This is horrible to say, but I had a little cushion under my desk so that my daughter, who was 2 and 3, could sleep under my desk because I had to work so late, right?
Mhm.
And I think there are realities that if you are in it, you're in it. If you're a consultant, you're there to help those who are in it, but then you go to bed at night and you log it off and then you log it on the next day. And it's so much different if you are in the middle of it. So I think part of it is, as a consultant who can just come into your Zoom screen and then pop out of your Zoom screen, or fly in for 2 days and fly out for 2 days, that allows me the decompression time to be away from it. And if you're in it, because it is your responsibility, you don't have that grace from the universe. And the other part of this that I think is so critically important is that none of my personal friends, like close personal friends, I have so many friends in the industry, but my home friends, let me put it that way, not a single one works in higher education. My husband works in construction. So even if I were to tell him, listen to this financial exigency story, like that's totally normal. Construction companies come and go. And like he would not even, I would be 3 words in and he'd be like, did you feed the dog? Right? Like this isn't his world. And so even if for us it's titillating or it's really scary or whatever it might be, he knows it for me as just the work. And that really is how I try to approach it.
It feels like that brings some healthy perspective into things too, because sometimes it can feel like the sky's falling,
All
Absolutely.
of the time.
Chicken Little.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I feel like we're seeing that so much more with leaders right now because we went straight from COVID to financial situations, to more politicalization, to all of these different things. And we all were telling ourselves, once we get past COVID, we get a reset. And so many people are exhausted. But for me, I'm not because I'm 20 plus years in having this be my everyday job.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, I know that we want to talk with you a little bit about an article that you wrote recently about the time for being quiet being over. But
Yes.
you did open a door that I just want to push open a little bit more. Your daughter.
Oh,
Your daughter, who, for anyone who's listening to this, did our entire visual identity system, our color palettes, our fonts, all the beautiful stuff that you
aw.
see on higher ed icons is the work of your daughter.
She would
And
want me to say Savannah Parrot, and her email address is savannah@parrotlikethebird.com. There you go. That's the proud mom
Love
in
the
me.
plug.
amazing.
Very important. Very important.
So
We
here's
would have
my
done it if you didn't, for the record. Savannah was a
Put it in the show notes, Mallory.
dream to work with. We called her out in our first couple episodes. I mean, absolutely a delight. Can't recommend her enough. 10 out of 10. I mean, our cover art is beautiful. Our
oh
episode graphics are
Aw.
beautiful. Like people can see it. So
Yes.
she's a doll. Anyway.
and that the pattern that she created was actually inspired by these 3D sculptures
Yes.
that we
Mhm.
saw on her website that we were like,
Yes.
it's perfect because it's organic, but it has
Yes.
structure. And that's exactly the
Yes.
sort of metaphor for the sort of work we want to do with higher ed icons. So Savannah Parrot, amazing. Hire her.
I agree. And she has grown up in higher ed. So it makes
Mm.
sense to me
Yeah.
that now that she's working with higher ed clients because
Yes.
this is what she knew. She knew like her first memories are at CU football games. And she had her own special seat that was like 3 rows up from the court at CU basketball games. And, she was in my office at all times. She had no idea that the regents were my bosses. And she would just go and sit in their laps. And I'd be like, oh my God, get out of their laps. She has grown up around higher education. And she loved that I went back and got my doctoral degree when she was in college because she got to teach me. She taught me Canvas. She
Oh.
taught me all of the things because last I had been in a library, we had little pencils and like card catalogs, right?
Yeah.
She was like, okay, it's a new world. Let me help you. It was so fun for both of us to be in school at the same time and then to celebrate our graduations.
Cool.
So here's my question for you.
Yes.
If there's one thing that you want your daughter to have learned from your career, what would it be?
My husband is not going to like this answer. It's it's never too late to go back, learn more, earn another degree, find a new passion, renew your passion. But if you have the opportunity to continually inspire curiosity in yourself, there is no reason why you shouldn't. And I think that's one of the great parts of my career is I get to do that every time I go to a new campus, but I've also challenged myself to continue that through degrees and certificates and programs because there is so much that we all can learn. And when we learn something new, we can share it with someone else and their lives can be better. So why wouldn't we want to? And I think that's what I hope she takes away from me, my career, and how she was raised.
Awesome. Thank you.
So, Teresa, you've written that the era of waiting for the noise to pass is over. And I think there's this very consistent thread in your advice that has spanned your career, right? Institutions
Yes.
need to act, do not wait out criticism. So, like, where does that conviction come from?
It definitely comes from my parents. I have the most amazing parents. I lost my dad last October, but
Mm,
what they always taught me is family matters, communication matters, being with each other matters. And we always talk about higher education as if we are a family, but we don't always act like it. And if
mm-mm.
these things were going on in our families, we would want to address it so that we were strengthening our bonds, not weakening them. And when I talk about being bold, a lot of people assume that's so that you're shouting it from a mountaintop or you're, putting out an op-ed or whatever it might be. Sometimes it's just being in community with your people. Sometimes it's walking across campus and talking to others. Sometimes it's meeting with those that we really don't want to because they're squeaky wheels, but it's our job. There's so many different ways that speaking out really matters, and it's not just an external effort. It is internal and external. But if we want to say our campus family, higher education as a family, all of those sorts of things, we would not allow our own family members to have the kind of anxiety and fear and misunderstanding that we sometimes have on campuses, but we don't want to address because it could be uncomfortable.
Do you have a specific moment or example of where you did watch an institution, whether or not they were your client, like choose to stay quiet and that
Yes.
backfired on them?
No, not that backfired, but worked beautifully. Let me tell you one
Oh.
that worked beautifully.
Oh.
Because I think we always look for where can we Monday quarterback, and let's Monday quarterback because they won. Um,
Yeah.
and that was an institution that the faculty were saying they wanted the president to put out a statement about undocumented students. And they wanted this to be a public statement because
Hmm.
other institutions were doing this. And how were they going to protect their undocumented students? And what did this mean? And so I was talking to the president, and what I was asking is, how are you supporting the students? And the president walked me through that, and it was a very comprehensive plan. And there were great redundant resources and protections and people available to them. And I said, okay, when you say all of the faculty, how many faculty are there? There was like 5. And then I said, okay, and as we're weighing the pro and con, that happens a lot. As we're weighing the pro and con of this situation, what are the pros of going public with this is what we do for undocumented students, and what are the cons? And what we agreed upon, because this is where I was trying to get the conversation, is putting something out publicly about your undocumented students and how you're supporting them allows people to see where there might be gaps in that and they can take
Mm.
advantage of that. And it also outs that you have undocumented students.
Ugh.
And for some of our campuses that are smaller, that's a problem because you're not talking about 35,000 students. You're talking about a much smaller group.
Yeah.
So what this president implemented, and it worked beautifully, is that they sat down one by one with the 5 faculty who just wanted to make sure something was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also continued to ensure that the students themselves had the supports they need. And they went to faculty governance and they said, if you want to, in a faculty senate meeting, talk about how should faculty be thinking about this and what resources can they take advantage of, that's much different. But from a shared governance standpoint, you might have more credibility to deliver that message. And also, it can be a shared responsibility that we have, administration and faculty. So that's one where the work is still getting done. And often we see this on our campuses. People don't want to talk about it, but sometimes not talking about it makes you more vulnerable, and people with the best of intentions may step in and try to help and actually undo what you've put in place.
Hmm. Wow.
What about an example where the institution did make some noise?
Oh, Mallory.
I don't
Okay,
know. I
so-
love examples.
You're
so
the best.
I know you're not gonna let me off the hook with that one. Thank you, Mallory.
No,
Um,
no.
I think part of my job also is to protect institutions from themselves. And
Mhm.
although I say go bold, that can mean many things, as I said. And so sometimes my job is to step in front of them before they step in it. And so if it's an op-ed, if it's whatever they're going to do, I always ask for the, I would say, beauty of letting me have one last look at everything. Let's go over
Mm,
your plan one more time. Let's talk about
yeah.
what our audiences are and what we're trying to accomplish. Let's look at the language and let's have one last look to see, are we going to make it better or are we going to make it worse? And if we're going to make it better, I will do everything to help them get as bold as possible. If we're going to make it worse, I want to make sure that we have a contingency plan so that we mitigate whatever that worse is so that it doesn't hurt whoever they're trying to help. But I always want to make sure that we have one last moment for everybody to be on the same page and
Yeah.
say, let's go or let's don't.
Okay. I have a follow-up question on that.
Yeah.
How, and I'm sure you faced this at least once in your career, an institution that has no good choices in front of them.
Yes. You're damned if you
And
do and you're damned if you don't. But what I tell them is you choose your damning at that point.
Uh,
It's
yeah,
almost a grace. Like it's almost an opportunity because you get to choose exactly. It's a choose your own adventure and let me
yeah,
know what your choice is. And here we go together.
okay, all right.
Yeah. Yeah, but
So,
I think that's a lot of higher education today. I
mm,
work with a president at a large public institution in a very red state with a very involved legislature in higher education, and this president is often having to balance who am I going to disappoint the least. Or who am I going to
mm,
make the most happy with this decision, right?
yeah,
And think about what that means moving forward, because there are opportunities where you can't make everybody happy and you're balancing what is in the best interest of the institution. How do I prioritize the impact and who feels it and what that looks like? How do I make sure that if I am going to disappoint someone or go against what somebody wishes or has told me, that I'm ready for what that looks like? And so I do think, going back to what the role of today's president is, it's understanding that you will have these damned if you do and damned if you don't moments. And it's your job to be a leader and choose that path.
yeah. So here's my follow-up question. Um, and I've just got to say, listening to you talk, you have a level of clarity and logic
hmm
that is just astounding. It's
Yeah.
just I could
Thank
listen to
you.
you talk forever, and actually all the problems that you're mentioning make me wanna, like, curl up in the fetal position under my desk and play Anya for 3 hours. Like, so I need to know, how is it, because you deal with uncertainties.
Yes,
There are no formulas. You have no idea how something is going to break because you're dealing with human beings and you're
yes,
dealing with forces of culture that you cannot predict.
yes.
So in this sort of world of uncertainty, what principles do you use to navigate this and make good decisions? Because I think everyone who's listening to this would be like, and I'll take 5 bottles of that, please. Can you ship it next day air? Yeah.
So my mentor was Christopher Simpson, and he was the founder of Simpson Communications and then Simpson Scarborough. And he taught me when I first started consulting, and just so you know, I hired him to help me, and then he hired me to work for him. And he taught me very quickly the ultimate litmus test, and it's what I still use to this day. And that is, what is in the best interest of the institution? And as
Mm,
long as you stick with that, take yourself out of it. Because if you truly go with what is in the best interest of the institution as your primary focus, I have yet to have a leadership team, a president not survive something.
hmm.
It's when you are thinking about your own self-preservation. You're thinking about, how will people view me? What will my legacy be as we go through this? Am I going to be able to get the next job? Will this stain how people think of me? And what will this mean to the metrics that I've spent so long building? That's when I see people starting to shift away from that. It has to be a pure look at what's in the best interest of the institution. And I had the great pleasure of speaking at a case conference yesterday, and I kind of scared the bejesus out of some of them because someone submitted a question that was basically, I'm burning out with this. I can't find the joy in the day, and I don't know if this is for me. And I said, and this is me loving you and saying, it might not be.
Yeah.
Because the reason I come back to this every day is that I am so in love with the opportunity of higher education. I am willing to do anything I can to have institutions and, most importantly, students be successful. And if that is your framing and that is your focus, join me. And if it's not, I'm not going to judge you. I am not, because it means you haven't found yet that topic that you are going to get up in the morning and say, I am going to give 100% to this because I believe in it so strongly.
Yeah.
So, Teresa, not only are you the president whisperer, you are also an icon of the podcasting world in higher ed. So I want to give you a chance to plug your podcast on this
Thank
one
you.
so listeners can go find it. But also, what have you learned about what it takes, to be a great leader in this industry from the podcast conversations that you've had?
Yes, thank you. So I am the co-host of Trusted Voices. In a cutesy way, it's Trusted Voices Podcast, so TVP. And we interview.
I see it.
Yeah, you see it? Yeah. When people see it, they're like, wait a minute. Yep, that's right. That's
Legit
right.
had not seen that before
Yeah,
you just said
yeah.
that.
So
Love.
Erin Hennessy is my co-host, and we
Oh, so you
have-
bring Erin. Okay, for the
Yeah,
record,
yeah,
you
yeah.
bring Erin. No.
Yes, it's the two of us. Well, and here's
no.
why. Our questions are so different from each other.
Ah.
And the way that we talk to leaders is so different from each other. And the genesis of our podcast was during the pandemic, we would host these, happy hours like everybody did. And everybody loved our banter so much because we think we are so funny and the other person is so funny. And so the two of us, it's like a admiration of you're so smart and beautiful and funny. And so we have that there too. And we love talking to people about higher ed. So we've had a number of university presidents. We've had the president of ACE, Ted Mitchell. We've had the head of the Knight Commission on Intercollegiate Athletics. We've had some reporters. We say we get to be the fly on the wall in these amazing moments and amazing conversations. And we want people to get a taste of that.
Oh.
So that's really what we try to do. But here's what we've learned. There are a number of your presidents that need to loosen up a little bit when they are on podcasts, because one of the major differences between an interview and a podcast is that we want to see your humanity.
Yep.
So we have to work harder than I thought we would have to work to get them comfortable, to get them talking, and to get them to open up. Because they almost see that green light go on and they just go back to that primal space of protection. Yes, and I'm a person in a suit and I have a title and all of these things. And we're trying to help people see where that leadership and communications intersection is. And sometimes we have to drag it out of people because they just freeze. So get your presidents comfortable with podcasting just like they are when they meet with your students, because that's a one-on-one conversation as well. And I think I truly am an introvert who plays an extrovert at work. Podcasting is the most natural format for me because right now I'm talking to the two of you and we're having fun. And so the more that we can kind of prepare our presidents, especially if they're so hesitant to participate, is to help them see how this can be something that can show so many different layers and so much more depth to their leadership and who they are than what we currently see from most presidents.
I love it.
I love
Well,
that.
I'm
I
so
love you
grateful.
guys.
Oh, it's a love fest at these higher ed icon streets, as our listeners know.
Icon.
I'm really grateful you took time out of your day for this interview, Teresa. I
Thank
think
you for the opportunity. When you sent me the email, I was elated. Thank you.
Well, I think that the industry is better because you're in it. There are so many
Aw.
institutions that have not stepped in piles of crap because you've been
Yes.
helping them. And
Or at least they have protection over their shoes, right?
that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. You put the doggy bag around the sneaker and then you step your
Yes.
foot down. Yes.
Yes.
Keep the sneakers white. But the industry I believe is and should be very grateful for what you've contributed
Thank
to it.
you.
You are an incredible icon, and I've learned so much in this last 45 minutes. So I just really thank you so much for everything.
Thank you.
The conversation,
both of you. Yes.
the contributions, your daughter, all
Yes.
of it.
She's
All
the
of
best. But I want to share a thread with both of you because I think this is critically important. I know both of you because all three of us contribute back to the industry so significantly, and that's where our lives have overlapped. So I also want to call and recognize both of you for the work that you do. Because when you see people give back to the industry, they're taking time from their own lives to do that. That means they're going to have to stay a little bit later in their own, in their own work world because they gave that hour to the industry. And I just want to thank you both for joining me in that space. It has been an honor and a privilege to know you that way for so many years. And your mentoring of so many people, including Savannah and including me, I think just needs to be recognized because you both are icons. So
Oh,
thank you.
thank
Teresa,
you,
you
Teresa.
are so smart and beautiful and funny.
Oh,
To
you.
use your words.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Right back at ya.
As Teresa was talking about her admiration for Aaron, I was like, it's all true, but it's like how I feel about you. So, what's sitting with you from that interview? Because there's a lot to unpack.
Oh my gosh, there was just so much that I learned over that conversation with Teresa. I think that what sits most prominent in my mind is that when she was talking about her philosophies for navigating very tough situations, there were two things that she said that were really impressed upon me. The first was she said, well, I learned a lot of my philosophy from my parents, who were wonderful parents. And she talked about how we in higher ed talk about higher ed as a family,
Yeah.
but we don't often behave like, well, we behave like a dysfunctional family, but we don't often behave as a functional family. And if you are behaving like a functional family, then you take care of each other. You watch out for each other. You look out for the best for each other. And the guiding philosophy of that is really fantastic. Then you pair that with what she learned from Christopher Simpson, who said that you always have to ask yourself, what is the best thing for the institution? And you use that as a guiding star for making the decisions. So it's so, I mean, it's not a complicated algorithm. It's not a mechanical um, equation. It's not a formula. It literally is based in a sense of humanity, empathy, kindness. And I find that that pervades not only her work, but her as a person. And when I
Yeah.
think of Teresa, I think of those characteristics because she just she just exudes them.
Yeah. Who she is makes what she does more effective. And so I think that's why she is iconic, but also very unique. She termed herself in the course of this interview an optimist, right? Many times. Like we know, her team calls her the president whisperer, and so maybe everybody does. But like this juxtaposition of needing to be brutally direct and honest sometimes, but incredibly optimistic, all kind of couched in this like lovely human who is just incredibly friendly and pleasant to be around and wonderful to listen to. She lives up to all the hype. Right. And
Yeah. Yeah.
and what's sticking with me along all of this is like she gets herself out of the way. Like every story she told us, the undocumented students, the wrecking balls story, the time where she lost 2 weeks of her life because she wasn't prepared for the leak. Like in each cases, like she has like removed her ego and herself from the situation and clearly followed the advice of her mentor to put the institution first. Like that has just obviously been something that has guided her in her career.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think, and this is something that you and I had talked about, that she is incredibly adept at walking that line
Yeah.
between what the reality is and how a leadership team might receive that,
Yeah.
right? And she's also very good at finding the permeability of those walls and pushing upon that permeability and and leading the leadership team to be in some cases bolder
Yeah.
than they want to be, or to have them deal with uncomfortable truths a little more head on than they might have originally been willing to do. And that sort of skill set is incredibly remarkable.
Yeah. And it sounds like, and she very clearly stated this after the leak story, but like she just gets more prepared every time she faces a challenge. Like she now builds the doomsday plan while she's hoping the doomsday never comes, and she sleeps fine because that framework exists in a drawer somewhere. And I think that that's a great lesson. Like that is something that I'm going to take into the work I'm doing moving forward, like build the version of the plan that assumes the leak and then go execute it like it won't happen. And, like if you are ready for worst case scenario, you are, and I too am an optimist. And so I really like identify with her in those ways. And I would much rather be the optimist who is pre-building the worst case, beating out the optimist version of me who maybe only has the faith that it's going to
Yeah.
be okay. Yeah.
And I love the fact that she's able to be an optimist and a wrecking ball all at the same time.
I have Miley Cyrus stuck in my head. It's like there's been a number of interviews now where music has come up, and then it's like I'm just singing these songs for like the next. I've still got Sia's song from our
Titanium?
interview with Terry in my head. Yes.
Would we call Teresa the Miley Cyrus of higher education?
I feel like that's a huge compliment.
It is on so
Wow.
many levels.
I think she might be. I mean, she knows she knows who she is, and
Yep.
she trusts her gut, and she builds the frameworks of the just in case scenario.
Yeah.
When it happens, she's ready, and yeah, maybe she is the Miley Cyrus of higher ed. Let's go.
We're going to have to mull on that for a while, aren't we?
Well, Volt, this was just another incredible conversation with another incredible icon. And I hope, listeners, you have enjoyed it. You know the call to action by now. Please go rate, subscribe, all the things. Leave a comment, DM us. Tell us who you want to hear from on this interview series. I mean, we love hearing the feedback, and we so appreciate the opportunity to be in your earbuds every other week. So thank you for your time.
Thank you all very much. Don't forget, if you are looking for a designer, you should hit up Savannah at parrotlikethebird.com.
Yes.
And Mallory, as we close out yet another incredible episode, what do we need to be?
Iconic. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Higher Ed Icons celebrates the pioneers, thought leaders, and changemakers who have shaped and continue to shape higher education marketing.
New episodes drop every other Tuesday. Subscribe and leave us a rating wherever you listen.
Higher Ed Icons is made possible by our founding sponsor, On Deck Marketing, keeping colleges and universities visible where students learn, walk, and scroll.
Learn more at ondeckmarketing.com. That's ondeckmktg.com to learn more.